Hello dear students, this is Victor Romo, Strategic Planning and Performance Management Coach and University Lecturer. Welcome. Our learning objectives aim to equip students with the knowledge, skills, and ethical foundations needed to become effective, positive action leaders who can drive positive change and contribute to the common good in various leadership roles. I am proposing some complementary bibliographies. These books cover various aspects of leadership, including decision-making, ethics, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, resilience, and personal development. They provide valuable insights and practical tools for individuals aspiring to become effective and ethical leaders. Remember to choose the ones that align best with your lecture's specific topics. Welcome to the Personal Development and Leadership course. The problem or paradox of business is that while leaders often employ a hands-on directive style to rise to the top, once they arrive, they're supposed to empower and enable their teams. Suddenly, they're expected to demonstrate people skills, leadership skills, and many find it challenging to adapt to that reality. To understand how leaders can successfully make this shift, the authors of article I am posting studied 75 CEO successions involving 235 candidates. They discovered that the transformation is not a single event, but unfolds over time and takes many twists and turns. It's a long journey with 3 stages: a departure, during which leaders recognize the need to change and leave behind their old ways of working; a voyage, during which they encounter obstacles and trials that teach them important lessons; and a return, when they arrive at a new understanding of what kind of leader they need to be. Completing this odyssey requires humility, self-awareness, and resilience. Several key practices will help executives along the way: understanding the extent of the change required, creating new contexts for learning, enlisting the help of advisors, learning from setbacks, and tapping the power of small wins. Said this, welcome. See you in the course. Please review the article. You can find it next to this video. It is an audio article and it has very powerful insights. Any question, comment, or ideas, I will be glad to help you. This was Victor M. Romo, your lecturer. Welcome and see you soon. Goodbye. Hello dear student. This is your Professor Victor M. Romo. Today I will be commenting about the Leadership Odyssey. The authorship is by Professor Herminio Ibarra from the London Business School, consultant Mr. Hildebrand from Spencer Stuart, and practice leader Sabine Bink, also from Spencer Stuart. I will be commenting some of the ideas, and you can ask your questions, comments, and reflections at the comment section. Said this, let's begin. The Leadership Odyssey. Is not easy to become less directive and more empowering. Here's how to navigate the challenges. This article is about leadership at the organization,
but it applies also at the professional and personal life. The situation: leaders often rise through the ranks by employing a directive style, but when they assume top level positions, they're suddenly expected to become more empowering. Most have a hard time adapting. The challenge: those who choose to shift styles need to recognize that the transformation will be long and difficult, an odyssey that will require humility, like Mr. Ed Shane always told us, leading with humility, self awareness, patience, resilience, the values, some of the values of our positive leadership model by our beloved Anáhuac University. The journey: leaders should expect their odyssey to have three main stages: the departure, when they recognize the need for change; the voyage, when they leave behind familiar ways of working; and the return, when they reach a new understanding of what kind of leader they need to be. It is always said that leadership is about the way, it's about the voyage, what you learn all around the voyage. And all that you learn, then you return to your organization or to your home and try to apply it to your everyday life. So, said this, welcome, let's begin. This is Victor M. Romo, your leadership professor. I'm also a coach and a consultant. I have been in business, coaching, and consultancy since 2009. And before that, I was learning and development assistant at the Microsoft Corporation, where I assisted diverse consultants with their trainings, their materials, and all the logistics of their events, of their learning events. That is where my coaching and learning and development seed got planted. And after that, at 2009, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, LEAP seminar, which is called Unleash the Power Within, that we will be commenting throughout the course, because it has very powerful affirmations and information. Said this, let's begin. Executives have always been and always be expected to produce results. But today, they're expected to produce them in a fundamental different way. Gone are the days of the heroic individual leading from the front. Instead, in most corporations, decision making has become decentralized, and leaders are now supposed to empower and enable their people. Because of that, they had to give up considerable control. As Rafaela Sadun and her colleagues reported recently in this article, people skills, often described as soft skills, are now especially critical for leaders. So, my fellow students, if you want to become a good leader, great leader, you need to develop people skills, soft skills. We observe ample evidence of this new reality in our work as researchers coaches, and leadership advisors. And we also observe that executives are having hard time adapting to it. For starters, the term soft skills and people skills are used to refer to a wide range of competencies and capabilities, leaving many executives confused about what exactly they entail. In addition, few aspiring CEOs and top managers entering the succession process have mastered a complete array of these skills, and few newly appointed CEOs and top managers have them fully ready to deploy. So, that is why these leadership courses are so important throughout our university years. Because after this, we will be joining organizations or deploying entrepreneurship projects, and we need to have our people skills or soft skills attuned. That shouldn't be surprising. No leader who has built a career on making expert contributions and exercising hands-on control can be expected to make the leap overnight to a people or soft skill centric style. I always got asked from fellow clients how can they be more proactive in doing leadership, in learning leadership, because some of them are very oriented to maybe analytics, data, numbers. Other, like people from HR, are very oriented to collaboration. Other people, like engineers, are very oriented to processes, models. So how you can conjunct that? Well, all can be joined with the people skills and developing the correct leadership mindset. Yet, reliable information about how to acquire people skills is scant. To find out more about what skills executives struggle to learn and what learning strategies pay off, we analyze assessment, development, and interview data gathered by the consultant agency Spencer Stuart, one of the world's top leadership advisory firms. Most Fortune 500 companies partner with advisors like Spencer Stuart to discover and develop succession candidates, so this data can be considered strong evidence of today's leadership requirements. In our analysis, we studied 75 CEO successions involving 235 candidates that took place at large cap companies in the United States and Europe from 2009 to 2019. 47 of those companies were public. We examined the correlation between CEO skills and firm performance as measured by shareholder return, revenue growth, and operating margins, or KPIs. We also interview a subset of leaders about their development experiences to understand the variety of styles they use to deliver results. In doing so, we look for evidence of strengths and developmental opportunities along the spectrum between directive and empowering styles. We also studied the executive's ability to work through networks and to enhance organizational performance by instilling and leveraging people skills. In this article, we will outline our findings. First, showcasing the stories of several of the candidates in our study. We'll describe the extended journey that most aspiring CEOs and middle and top managers must get through to properly develop the people skills necessary for leadership today. Then we'll lay out a few guidelines for anyone embarking on such a journey. We've disguised the identities of the people whose stories we share, at times combining them to protect their privacy and capture the full range of experiences that we observe is a better way so that we don't have bias about if he's a man, if he's a woman, if he's young, if she's young or elder, or what type of organization they are joining. Said this, let's begin with a three-stage journey. Let's continue, my fellow students. A three-stage journey. How can leaders who fall short on soft skills develop a more enabling style? The primary lesson we glean from our interviews is that there's no one moment when everything snaps into place. People love stories of sudden conversations, which exist in every culture. Think of the biblical story of Saul, who suddenly became the Apostle Paul after being struck blind by God on the road to Damascus. However, most transformations don't happen this way. Instead, they involve wandering and uncertainty, inner battles, and protracted periods of personal struggle. The best analogy might be the story of Odysseus, who had a long and arduous journey back to Ithaca from the Battle of Troy. So, it is with broadening your repertoire of people skills. It's not a single event, but an involved process that unfolds over time. Often uncomfortably, with many twists and turns. That said, there are predictable stages and challenges along the way. The first stage is a departure, during which the leader recognizes the need for a change and deliberately starts to leave behind familiar ways of working. The second is the voyage, a time transition during which the leader encounters obstacles and trials that teach important lessons and open the path to transformation. Finally, there's a return, during which leaders arrive at a new understanding of who they are and what kind of leader they want to be, and start to transfer what they've learned to others. Now, my fellow students, let's explore each of these stages. Number 1. The departure. Leaders alter their habitual and successful ways of doing things only when they become aware of a gap between where they are and where they want to be. The catalyst might be a particular event or feedback from colleagues or coaches, but usually people embark on a concerted effort to change only after multiple experiences and conversations make them realize that their behavior is impeding outcomes that they care about. Take Flavio, who worked as a general manager of engineering at a major technology firm before becoming its COO, Chief Operating Officer, and then its CEO, top management positions. In his role as general manager, Flavio was eager to enhance the ways that his sales teams positioned products and to increase sales. In his view, they weren't getting products to market fast enough, so he drove them harder and harder. Soon, He began to hear that people felt he was pushing his own agenda instead of the company's, but he dismissed that as a grumbling of those resistant to change. Then colleagues had respected began to withdraw from conversations with him, including people whose support was critical. His behavior, one former team member told him candidly, was alienating the very people he needed to make his go to market strategy work. An executive coach helped him understand the core of the problem. He wasn't crafting strategy jointly with others and acknowledged the urgent need to change. The impetus for change can come in other ways. We often see executives emulate bosses with more developed people skills, usually in the context of an organizational shift toward a more empowering culture, and discover that their new behaviors help them achieve value results. That's what happened with Rajiv, a newly appointed divisional CEO. Rajiv's boss, the company CEO, had launched an initiative to instill a culture of collaboration and psychological safety in his leadership team, which included Rajiv. Keen to follow the lead of his boss, Rajiv replicated the effort with his own unit, though he initially did so in a perfunctory tick the box manner. He was surprised to find that he and his team were having more open conversations. He also began to receive candid feedback on his leadership style, which he learned instilled fear and encouraged silence. Rajiv turned to an external coach, assuming the fix was a simple matter of picking up better listening skills. But the coach helped him recognize a big disconnect between how he saw himself and how others saw him, and made him see how deeply rooted, pervasive, and alienating his controlling tendencies had become. His aha moment, the real beginning of his journey, came when he realized just how much time and effort he would have to devote to improving the way he worked with others. In our experience, many leaders underestimate the extent of change required and need the help and perspective of a trusted partner, an advisor, a mentor, or a coach. Not all of them reach the departure stage, and the ones who do embark on a genuine voyage of discovery will need, as Professor Ed Shane always said, humility, self awareness, patience, and resilience to complete it. Enlisting helpers. At every stage in the development journey, you need partners who can hold you accountable, provide honest feedback, help you connect the dots, and hold up mirrors, revealing your true nature. Odysseus would never have been able to make it past the sirens on his own. Kevin, the CEO of a large financial firm, is a case in point. He joined the firm 5 years before being appointed CEO. At his old firm, where he had been the head of the finance functions, he had developed a reputation for having sharp elbows. But his new firm prided itself on a culture of mutual respect and warmth, and in that context his style was jarring. When the firm began its CEO succession process, Kevin Stellar results made him an obvious candidate, but his firm's head of HR made it clear that he never get to the top job unless he improved his ability to consider and include other views. With the stakes that high, he began working on his people skills in earnest, as is often the case with smart, ambitious people. Kevin was able to adapt enough to get the top job, but the changes he made were superficial, representing his best, but certainly not his everyday self. Once in the CEO role, he regularly found himself falling into old patterns. To really change, Kevin realized he needed the help of others. He started by setting up an accountability system with an external coach who, in regular sessions, worked with him to form new habits and understand what triggered his domineering tendencies. He also asked a small group of trusted colleagues to call him out on his old behaviors. Initially, he had a difficult time getting honest feedback from the people in his inner circle because they were afraid of upsetting him. So he started working to create greater psychological safety. He began regularly expressing gratitude for feedback, making a point of identifying aspects it that he particularly appreciated, even if he disagreed. That simple technique set a virtuous cycle in motion. The more he allowed his team members to help him, the more they were willing and able to give him support. Persisting through and learning from setbacks, the line to finish is rarely straight. As the stakes get higher and performance anxiety flares up, executives often fall back into the old style that made them successful for years. Alternatively, they demonstrate only a naive understanding of their new skills, which produces less than optimal results. Two steps forward, one step back. The adaptation journey almost invariably involves backsliding and overshooting. To keep going, you need to focus on the small wins of every day. One new CEO, Maria, was eager to fully empower her team, but fell into the trap of delegating ownership of too many decisions. A 2 week long strategy offsites with her top 30 leaders, for example, she hoped to co create new strategic direction. She was aware that the last time she had tried to give her team more authority over wide ranging decisions, it had accomplished little, and its members had felt frustrated with what they perceived to be a lack of direction. In a conversation with her coach, Maria recognized that a better approach would be to retain authority over key decisions, but gather input more inclusively. The process worked at the first offsite and set the stage for a more free, willing, and productive second session. By demonstrating the potential of a new style and eliciting positive feedback, small wins start to shift the leader's motivation from necessity. I need to be a better communicator to possibility. I'm working on communicating better because it will help me accomplish my goal. And identity. I'm working on communicating better because that is who I want to be. These subtle changes help leaders become more self reflective and persistent, invaluable traits for anybody trying to define and anchor a new self. The return. The moment of return arrives when, after the trials and tribulations of the voyage, leaders at last internalize a more empowered leadership style, see it as a genuine reflection of their new selves, and can employ it across the board in their professional lives. Their learning is far from finished at this point, but it has become self-sustaining. To be clear, there's no best style. Leaders must always exercise judgment about what to be more directive or more enabling, We've seen instances of executives veering too far in an inclusive direction when a more commanding one was called for. But when leaders are equipped with a broader repertoire and hard won insights about the impact of their behavior, they're better able to flex in response to what's needed. Paradoxically, as their capacity to be more empowering evolves, leaders can more intentionally and effectively use a directive approach in situations that call for it. A second marker of having entered the return stage is a desire to share and amplify your learning. This is critical because it increases your organization's capacity for developing its own workforce. Three examples come to mind. One executive implemented a long-term succession planning process to ensure that up and coming leaders would have the opportunity to learn how to exert influence without authority. Another executive, a lawyer who led one of his firm's biggest practices, realized that his firm performance management system was impeding the kind of development discussions that he had benefited from. So he worked with HR to overhaul the entire system. A third executive realized that the way his organization conducted quarterly business reviews didn't lend itself to the introspective conversations he had come to value in his adaptation journey. So he revamped the process to encourage others to own their own mistakes and make themselves vulnerable for the sake of learning. Starting your own journey. Most high performing executives and leaders today intellectually get the case for better people skills or soft skills and know that their well honed directive styles have significant downsides. But learning and sticking to new habits and skills, especially under pressure, demands commitment and effort. Here are a few tips to help you get on your way. 1. Know what you're in for. At the outset, upping your people skills can seem simple enough, but people who lack knowledge or experience often underestimate their own competence. The notorious Dunning-Kruger effect. And even experienced managers tend to believe they're better at coaching than they really are. So it's important to develop a realistic sense of the time and effort required to genuinely adapt your style. Knowing what milestones to look out for, such as early wins and recovery from a setback, can help. 2. Map out your learning agenda. This is crucial, my friends, fellow students. Remember that you might need to work on your skills in particular settings. You might be great at collaborating, navigating complex multi-stake situations or strategy where you have no direct authority over those you're working with, but have a hard time doing the same with your own team. Or you might excel at listening and fostering psychological safety with your team, but find yourself unable to leverage those interpersonal skills to get things done with your peers across the organization. Once you identify a strength that you want to develop, experiment with using it in different contexts. Recall Corinne, whose roles on an external board and heading her firm, the AI initiative, helped her learn to exert influence without having direct authority. Her experience was akin to that of many executives we work with. Only after they gain perspective in their new project role or setting did they truly understand the meaning of developmental advice they had received. One reason that temporary assignments, side projects, and job rotations can be such effective triggers for transformation. It's hard to change if you just keep doing more of the same. 3. Create space for learning. and this is crucial in our university surroundings and environment. Carving out regular time for reflection is a simple way to speed your progress, capitalize on small wins, and learn more from your inevitable setbacks. But this sort of daily exercise works best if you also periodically pause to contemplate the big picture. As Ron Effetz of Harvard's Kennedy School has put it, it is important to spend time down on the dance floor and up in the balcony. Two of the aspiring CEOs and leaders in our study use the strategy of regular reflection very effectively. One spent her 20-minute ride to work every morning thinking about the interactions of the previous day and defining one learning intention for the day. The second blocked out a regular time in his week to reflect on his successes, failures, and challenges as a leader. He also used that time to seek feedback from his colleagues, often by asking them such questions as, "What did you see me do, hear me say? And what would you like to see me do, hear me say?" Learning requires you to recognize the patterns you fall into. Kevin identified his by writing in a journal about the many situations in which he could have been more appreciative, less hard-charging with colleagues. Later, he would analyze those situations in detail and visualize other ways of responding. A coach helped him recognize that his abrasive self often emerged when he felt impatient, so they developed a plan. Whenever he sensed his impatience rising, he could press each fingertip with his thumb before responding. Just creating that small space between stimulus and response helped him react as he intended. Don't do it alone. Don't go in your journey alone. Coaches and mentors and professors outside your normal reporting lines can be very helpful, but you also need to rely on close colleagues and in some instances even your family or friends, people who can hold you to account and offer in-the-moment feedback in ways that nobody else can. With that in mind, select a couple of colleagues you can trust to provide you with honest feedback and ideas for improvement. By doing so, you will demonstrate your commitment to becoming a better leader. You also make clear to those around you that you care, which ensures that when you slip up, as you inevitably will, you'll get help and the benefit of the doubt. But watch out! When you ask for feedback, be prepared to follow up on it. We found that the leaders most likely to fail in their adaptation journeys and those colleagues tired of giving feedback because nothing seems to come of it. More than ever, we need leaders, managers who can harness ingenuity and foster engagement. At the top level of organizations, success requires a broad repertoire of people skills that make it possible to lead others indirectly on a large scale. For many executives and leaders, gaining them will involve a journey of transformation, one that's likely to be longer and more difficult than they imagined, but ultimately